Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to unpack a truly fascinating piece of writing today that outlines an epic, invisible rescue mission. According to the text we're exploring, this isn't just some dusty historical event. It's an active, ongoing mission that, according to the author, involves all of humanity, the very courts of heaven, and an ultimate team captain. It's a really thought-provoking look at the whole concept of Jesus as a high priest, and I absolutely can't wait to break it down with you.
So let's kick things off with a super practical question the text poses to its readers. Think about it for a second. When things get really tough, when life feels completely overwhelming, or when you feel totally defeated, who is actually in your corner? Who is fighting for you? The author really wants you to keep that question right in the back of your mind. It's the foundation for the entire framework we're about to explore.
All right, let's look at Section 1, the ultimate rescue mission.
To really grasp the text's view of what's happening right now, it actually asks us to look backward first. It makes the argument that humanity is entirely hopeless and helpless without the mercy of a sin-bearer. And the author points out this fascinating theological premise. Our natural human eyes can't even comprehend this rescue. It literally requires an inward shift in perspective, illuminated by the Holy Spirit, just to recognize how dire the situation is and to see the all-sufficiency of this mercy coming to save us. The text actually calls this the greatest errand of grace. It highlights that Christ left heaven on a mission of infinite compassion. He didn't come down to conquer with huge armies. Instead, the narrative states he endured shameful humiliation and rejection from the exact same people he came to save. The ultimate contrast drawn here is that a completely sinless being suffered entirely in humanity's place. It's framed as an errand of unspeakable love, taking the absolute worst treatment from fallen humanity just to provide us with an escape route.
Moving right along to Section 2, our high priest in heaven.
According to the source, the earthly rescue mission wasn't the end of the story, not at all. The text anchors its argument about what happens next in this powerful quote from the book of Hebrews, chapter 8, verse 1. We have such an high priest who is set on the right hand of the throne of the majesty in the heavens. This verse brilliantly illustrates the theological framework that Jesus isn't distant, he's not detached, and he's definitely not just resting. Rather, he is actively positioned right next to the ultimate authority, the throne of God itself. The text uses the word intercession to define this specific role. And what does that mean? Well, it means someone standing in the gap, to help, to defend, and to personally speak up for someone else. Essentially, the text frames Jesus as the believer's dedicated defense attorney before the Father, making personal intercession on their behalf. He's speaking up for you. But, the text frames this as a two-way street. It paints this incredibly vivid picture of Christ before the throne, quite literally waiting for believers to make a move. He's waiting for their prayers, he's waiting for them to surrender their stubborn will, and he's waiting for them to cease their rebellion so that he can offer forgiveness for their transgressions. The implication here is pretty profound. The defense is ready, the pardon is totally secured, but it requires the individual to actually step out of rebellion to accept it.
All right, Section 3. Twice belonging to Jesus.
Now, you might be wondering, why would anyone go to such incredible lengths to defend humanity? Well, the author explains that it all comes down to a very specific concept of belonging. The argument is built on a foundational quote from 1 Corinthians. Ye are not your own, ye are bought with a price. This is used to really hammer home a central theme in this source. Human beings have immense, inherent value because an ultimate, immeasurable price was paid for them. And here's exactly how that belonging works, through a concept of double ownership. Step 1 is by creation, literally being made from scratch in the first place. But then, after humanity fell and wandered off, we get step 2, by redemption, being bought back. This idea of being twice owned, once by creation and again by redemption, is the theological explanation for that immense dedication and infinite compassion we were talking about earlier. Which brings us to Section 4, dropping the complaining habit.
Now that the text has established this immense value and double ownership, it logically pivots to our practical, everyday behavior. Let's be completely honest with ourselves. Human beings are practically wired to complain. But the author presents a direct contrast here. Rather than complaining and accusing one another, believers are urged to adopt a meek and submissive spirit. It asks a really pointed question. Before the entire observing universe, should people choose to complain, or should they choose kindness? It's a direct challenge to our everyday human attitudes.
To really drive this home, the text brings in a quote from the great teacher himself. Learn of me, for I am meek and lowly in heart, and ye shall find rest unto your souls.
The profound takeaway the author offers here is that choosing meekness isn't just about behaving well or following some strict set of rules. It is actually presented as the true mechanism for finding peace and rest for a tired soul.
And finally, Section 5, Joining the Heavenly Team. For this last part, the text zooms way, way out to look at a massive, invisible audience that is keenly watching how humans choose to live and act. According to the source, there is a very real, invisible war happening right now, revolving around these choices. On one side, the enemy's army is said to actively celebrate and triumph whenever people delay or stay in rebellion. But on the flip side, good angels are described as having an intense interest in humanity. They are actively holding back destructive forces and are super eager to help us.
So, what's the ultimate call to action here? It urges readers to become co-workers with Jesus Christ. The author argues that instead of just remaining under condemnation, individuals can take all of this, the redemption, the intercession, the peace, and actually use their own influence to help others. They are encouraged to actively work together with a high priest who is not only making personal intercession for them, but is actively cheering them on.
Which brings us to our final, provocative thought for today's explainer. Knowing everything this text outlines about creation, redemption, and intercession in heaven's courts, the source leaves its readers with one incredibly powerful question. What choice will you make today? Will you stand on the side of Christ and use your influence to help others? It's a brilliantly compelling framing of personal responsibility. Thank you so much for hanging out with me to explore this fascinating material, and as always, keep learning and keep asking questions.